Streaming. It's live. Hello, hello.
It's
And
there. It's there.
there we
It
go
says
on
it's
Facebook.
there.
Oh, that's quick today. That's quick today. There we go. We are almost live. There we go. Welcome back to the Self-Help Bookshelf. This is another episode of the High Leverage Actions podcast, where we help you make small changes that make a significant difference in your daily life. And today we are going to be talking about how to stay level-headed when everything is going on. And I can't even remember the rest of the title, but it's about staying level-headed. Yes. And today I sat down about half an hour before the episode to have a cup of coffee and I fell asleep. So I'm very lethargic. So Rory is going to work us through some of this today. And it looks like I'm going to become a case study for how to do all this. So go away, let's take it away, Rory.
Thanks for being so honest and awesome, Kay. So, yeah, we're here and lots of stuff goes on, especially with setting up businesses or being um, diverse or neurodivergent, and and uh, even with like not even just the amount of stuff that I want to get sorted or do. Um, there's all of the other things like without you, without inviting you to, divulge in anything you don't want to divulge in. There's a lot going on for you as well. Okay, so
Yes, a
yeah,
lot. Yes.
so like,
And it's how to still turn up with that, isn't it? Even with
hmm
everything going on, how to still turn up.
hmm
And
hmm
essentially, although we're declaring it today, essentially turn up and still be authentic and not turn up in a different space or angry or frustrated or overwhelmed because of everything else going on in the background. And this is what we mean by the level headed. So, yes, Rory is right. There's a lot going on. And like you say, without divulging personal details for people, my son's going through a divorce. So, him and the children are staying with me for a while. So, my house is turned upside down pretty much. And it's constantly noisy. And I find it difficult to get in the bathroom when I need to. And I'm finding things moved. I haven't found one of the TV remotes for over a week, still missing. And so it's all of that going on in the home. My daughter has been going through issues with an ASBO neighbour for the last 2 or 3 years. And it's been going backwards and forwards to the council and to court and getting rejected. And then it got closed and then they kicked off again. And then all of a sudden, Thursday last week, they said she gets the house keys to her new home on Tuesday this week. They're finally moving her. But it's like less than 3 weeks to Christmas. She's now got to move house suddenly. And she needs a lot of support because she's a single parent and one of her children has a medical disability. So there's two things going on, which actually my children's problem, not mine, but they both have an impact on me in supporting them as well. And then on top of that, I have my own disability. So I have PIP, and my forms did not arrive in time in the post. So they stopped my money. And then I had to fill all the forms out a second time. So again, it's trying for, especially when we're neurodivergent and we hate filling out forms. And I don't usually like using the word hate, but I get overwhelmed filling out forms. And when you've got like 14 pages of forms to include like 20 pages worth of medical conditions into, it is just overwhelming. So all of that's been going on while we've been launching 4 different books over 3 different events. We've still been doing the podcast. We've still had one-to-ones, networking, clients. So it's how we manage to go through life with all of these additional curveballs and still turn up with a smile on our face. And I know you've had a lot going on as well, Rory, and it's been very different challenges or very different journeys and adventures, I should say, for you. Yours is slightly different for different reasons. But yeah, so we thought this would be a great topic today. Um,
yeah. Thank you so
the
much for
run of book
sharing.
launches. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that because that was like so I said without divulging and it's still that was still that was plenty to be sharing. So yeah, I appreciate the context. So it's amazing and to know that we're all human, and not just human, but also with our extra unique experiences and ways we react and respond and learn in or just deal with stuff that's going on in with our unique brains. So um and it's and there's one other context thing is, there's Christmas coming and all of that sort of stuff. There can be an emotional weight to coming into that, or not, or whatever that comes along with that. So, thinking about what that days or those few days are going to be like, planning all those things, and maybe it's like that's enjoyable for some people. So it's like that thing of what's enjoyable, what's not enjoyable. What when we're talking about staying level-headed, we're often like trying to fend off the what's not enjoyable stuff. At least if there's stuff to get done, but um, it's overwhelming, like you say, uh, then what can we do about that? And one of my first steps, we can break it down into a couple of steps here, because obviously, as you shared, there's like what's going on for us or externally in the moment, or there's like building stuff that's bigger than that, like more longer term things to think about, and how to break it all down so that, like the way I like to describe it is, we've either got momentary day stuff to do, then there's project stuff that's current, or there may be that the project is leading to a bigger future project or something that's a bit bigger than that, that's part of, or that there's life and health and wealth and relationships, and those are all big, even the biggest sort of visionary pictures or things that we may or may not be wanting in our lives at this time. So many of those things, but as I hope that's helped to break it down into sort of smaller sections, because that's really one of the first things we can do. If we're just suddenly, one of the first things that's important to remember is not to try to push through unless you know that it's more momentary, more get this bit done and I can have a day, something like that. But even then, that's like it's really up to discerning what that actually means, because if that's regularly happening, where there's like 2 days to completely crash, but five of them are absolutely just running on, you know, absolute however you want to say it, however you want to describe it, you know, um, just
Say
absolutely,
willpower.
crazy full on dealing with everything, and then you get 2 days off, for instance, and that's like the typical week. The weekend is some people may just switch off and go completely under the covers or whatever just to recover, but the word sustainability comes to mind, and what that actually means, and from terms of just a moment to, and first step is like, is it small, is it big, is it large, what's going on in terms of how we are overwhelmed, because it's okay to be overwhelmed. That's actually gets us up in the morning to go, I'm I'm whelmed enough to get up out of bed, because if we don't, then we may not want to do that. There's a whelming that is actually, it has to tip, the tide has to tip. Otherwise, and that can be overwhelmingly passionate, overwhelmingly joyful to jump out of bed to get things done, even if there's pressure to get them done, knowing that it's a job well done, it's a visionary project that's being worked on, or a visionary life. And so I threw a lot there just to even just start throwing it out. But what I loved about what you shared was immediately, and this is the first step, would be to let it out. If there's something where it's feeling like it's freezing, I'll go into like momentary stuff in a minute, but just for that moment that you actually declared that, your face lit up because you were able to share what's going on. So it's either that's talking to someone that's not going to just suddenly fire back, well, you should do this or shouldn't do that, just to hear you, just to hear you be able to say, I've got this going on, this going on, this going on, this going on. That can actually just defragment the mind immediately in some ways. In 15 minutes, we can go from very one way through to back on track, being excited and calm. And And it's all about perception of whether things are too much or not, and whether that muchness is useful for us or not. So what did you hear back from that first K before we go into like other tools and techniques and ideas? But that initial either speaking to someone or just writing it out if it feels like it's really struggling.
Absolutely. And I think the key bit out of that for me, Rory, that you were talking about is the breaking it down. And when you're talking about overwhelm and each individual problem or each individual challenge or adventure or task or whatever anybody's going through, and especially with Christmas, with shopping, writing cards, wrapping, prepping meals, planning travel, all of that, every single task, challenge, setback, step forward can all have a different emotion attached to it. So first one is when I'm thinking about problems, I think of each individual problem in where I'm at emotionally with that specific problem and how to progress into a better place with it. But when you're talking about breaking it down as well, I kind of imagine it is like trying to move, half a dozen objects from place A to place B, except these are goals. I'm trying to get from A to B. But I'm not trying to carry all six at once. So I think for me, one of the biggest things is realizing that I don't have to carry all of the weight of all of those challenges all the time. You can put them down. And when you put them down, it gives you more strength to focus on the one that you're dealing with in the moment and then be able to switch between tasks. So if I need to go and help my daughter for a couple of hours, I do that, but I mentally put the rest down. Then when I come back to do the podcast, apart from talking about it today, I mentally put those problems down. And then if I'm doing something else with the grandchildren when they're here, I put all of that. So it's being able to recognize that we don't need to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We can do it a little bit at a time and move each one forward a little step at a time. So yeah, absolutely. The breaking it down is important, but also remembering to put things down, because if you've only got 2 hours a day or 20 minutes another day, or you've got to wait 3 days to deal with something, why carry that weight? It's like if you're waiting for someone to take a parcel and they're not turning up for 3 days, are you going to stand there and hold that parcel for 3 days until your arms are dropping off and you're getting really frustrated and angry because you're standing out there? Or do you put it somewhere safe and walk away? So for me, that's what I've done mentally for years. But I also like the bit you're saying about, was it resilience? No, what did you say the other bit?
Sustainability.
No, sustainability. Yeah, sustainability. Yes. So that's what it's like, is not burning yourself out through carrying all of that, doing too much at once. And sometimes we don't have a choice about how many things come along at once. They do just happen at once. And so it is, like you say, finding those little tips and strategies. And if that includes mindset strategies to make it sustainable, yes, that was a really good word. I like that one. Well done. I love that one.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Lovely. Thanks for sharing. That's great to hear because um that putting it down to me is that was a great analogy of the holding the package, but also then there's that idea of holding the package whilst running around doing other things rather than just even waiting as well. So like I don't have time to put this down. I've got to get this done, or I've got to go over here and do this and this and this and this and this, and there's no space. So that moment of putting it down is, like I say, it can be literally just writing. Otherwise, the head brain won't let go of it. It won't actually let go of it until it's actually declared, written down, and that's the first. One of the first things. If there's and then it comes back around to if there's no time for that, I've got to go. I've literally got to wake up and do this, and this, and this. Then I don't know what that meant.
So you say if you haven't got time to write it down, you just yell at something on here along the way and it will make voice notes.
Okay, yeah, there's the voice notes piece. Yeah, yeah. So, so almost, I'd say physically going and doing things, and got to do this, got to do that, and all of that stuff. That's almost, and speaking it out. That's all physical things to do. Then we're going to talk about the mental and emotional things to do. So, the idea of the I've got to do this, and this, and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Yes, okay, maybe even getting moving physically. If it's like overwhelmed and I've got to do this and staying still, just bear in mind that there's a physical chemicals that need moving as well in the
Mm.
body. So at that moment when it's like, oh, I just literally I don't have time to do 5 minutes relaxation, and um maybe the case. Or is it? And that's my point, is when we're talking about this, like we talked about, I think we talked about what's on the plate in one of the talks as well. So this plate being, I have got too much on my plate, or whatever it is, and that plate is like imaginary, and it's there to hold what we want to do or what we think we should or need to do, and that's all. That's what it is. And so, but it is expandable depending on what level of relaxation we're at, and sense of level-headedness is a practice to be able to prioritize more sensibly. And so that the neuroscience of, flow state stuff is like, it can be very, very, if you know what to do and when to do it, it can actually create space, very short and specific, to being able to have the mental, cognitive, and cognitive. I can't even say it now.
Yeah.
Cognition. I was about to say cognitivity, mental cognition load, and just offloading it without having to even talk to anyone is what we can
Mm.
go through now. But I was wondering what you got from that, Kay, around this whole idea that there is the time in the day if we choose to, even if it's like, oh, I'm interacting with this person and this person and this person, that what if you're meeting someone and you need 2 minutes or 5 minutes to sit somewhere quietly, no one's going to actually deny you of that. No, you must carry on doing, if you're having a business lunch and you're really, really stressed, or whatever it is, or a meeting, um, no one's it's we have to remember that it is our choice. If we're saying I've got to I can't do this, so I've got to do this, that we're still choosing it. We're still choosing
Yes.
it. And someone would always want your mental health to be good, and physical health to be good, if you know how to declare that that's what one of your needs is right now, is to defragment, to decompress, um to step away for 5 minutes. And maybe there are children, going crazy here and there, but then we can talk about that too. But just noticing where there is pockets in time, and we can talk about the actual technique in a minute.
Mm. No, that's fantastic, Rory. And yeah, one of the things that's come to mind for me is when you're talking about overwhelm, in terms of we've got lots of going on physically and mentally. And then, for example, my daughter moving house at the moment, physically is all the packing, mentally it's planning where everything's going to go and how to move all the utility services, how to work around the children. And then emotionally, there's a lot of emotional attachment with this move as well. So it's recognizing how each of them is making you feel drained. But scheduling, when we did about scheduling recently, about scheduling in some time for rest, making a point of having time for rest and recovery. And I do that my week on my calendar's fairly open. But the minute my calendar starts to get bookings in and starts to get busy, rather than leave it to get busier, I will go, right, that's enough for the week. And any time that's left, I will block it off. I've learned to do that one in the recent weeks, is as soon as my calendar starts to look full, I block the rest off and put it as health time or me time. And so nobody else can then overbook that, because my calendar's booked by clients and networkers as well. So yes, it is recognizing the pacing, having, if you are pushing and pushing, and it's about avoiding the burnout as well, when we're talking about level-headed, avoiding burnout, and recognizing that, like Rory says, for the sake of taking 2 to 5 minutes break between each task as well. Like my daughter's packing, so it was do a box. She could just keep packing, pack, 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 pack. But the other day we were doing enough packing to like fill a box or bucket or bag or whatever, and then taking a quick 1 to 2 minute break before we did the next one. Clear the head and then do the next one. Clear the head, do the next one. And it's like doing a relay rather than a marathon. And just those short sprints make it more fun. I've got somebody at the door. I'm going to have to throw that back to you a minute. I've just got to go and let them in the door. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, I loved what Kay was just saying then, which was exactly reinforcing this idea of if there's a lot to be doing, then just wedging in those tiny little. You made it. You said to say made it fun. You made it more manageable to go for. I guess you maybe you would say that you'd be able to go for longer because of that too. Longer, you can be able to go for longer periods of time and in short, like, and the best way of describing that is when one of the mental fitness analogies is the being on the racetrack of Formula One, that the tires actually literally cannot last the whole race. So
Stops. Good.
pit stops. So how long are the pit stops?
Seconds.
Seconds.
And
And
well coordinated. Yeah.
and yeah, they're well coordinated, obviously, yeah. So there's like extra power there with all the team, but that team is all of your nervous system. So
Yeah.
there's it's
Mm.
so the idea being that between 10, depending on how um aroused the nervous system is, for overwhelm or stress, the between, like, if it's like a general amount, then 10 seconds can make a shift. 10 seconds of feeling one sensation without connecting to anything else. So that be touch, it can be smell, it can be um uh sound, it can be. And that, so we were talking about sound, even if there's hecticness going on and you can't step away to breathe or relax, the sound of what's going on, even if there's like a, and this is a big topic, but the people that potentially get hyper aroused or sensitive through particular sounds, that's a bigger challenge. But it is
Mm.
possible to focus and listen to the type of sound it is rather than the emotional connection and the meaning behind it. It takes
Yeah.
time to do that, but as an example, without it being a sound that would normally upset someone. It can be
Yeah.
done with general sounds. That can be practiced first before going into sounds that are normally overstimulating someone, because then
Yeah.
they've got the upset that comes with it. It's a bigger process. But that level-headed is the idea of a neutral feeling, of a feeling, or a sense of clear-headed neutrality is possible to reach in short amounts of time, between 10 seconds, 2 minutes, up to 12 if absolutely um, um, finding it difficult.
Mm. No, absolutely. Mindfulness. That's what it's all about, isn't it? And as you were saying all of that, I'm like, oh, this is what I do. Like one of two of my books are all about mindfulness. And when you're saying about all of the senses, sight, smell, taste, sound, touch, we all experience the world through five senses. And we can use those same five senses to micro shift those experiences into a well-being space while everything's still going on. And when I worked in a busy corporate office and my workload was more than 100% of my time available to do that workload, I very often didn't get a break during the day. But when I was taking the time to walk from my desk to the printer, or the coffee machine was pouring for 20 seconds, those were like 20 seconds at times when I had to be mindful, whether it was mindful about the sound of the coffee pouring, the smell, watching the ripples and splashes, or looking out of the window, or just instead of trying to focus on a conversation or a phone call or an email, like you said, opening up and just listening. What is the overall sound going on in the office today? You know, are people happy and chatting? Is there meetings going on? Is people on the phone? You know, is it silent? Because sometimes we've got a little bit of quiet in the office, even though it was still busy. So for me, this is where mindfulness became a major practice in my daily life, and I still use it a lot. And so my book, Mindfulness with Flowers, every page in here which has got a flower photo with text, every one of these will tap into one of the five senses through the imagination. So even looking into these photographs, we can look at the sight of what we see, but we can also imagine what we hear, smell, taste, and touch through different images, and tap into it mentally without actually having those things in front of us. So it is possible to do it through images as well, looking through a magazine or something. Or don't really want to be going on the phone for mindfulness, but it is possible. So yeah, mindfulness is really, really powerful for staying level-headed. Like
Yes.
saying that's the part of putting everything else down and coming into this very moment. What is going on now? And if you haven't got stuff going on that you want to tap into, it's being able to pick up a book like this or something else and tap into that mindfulness through that in the moment.
Yes, yes, yes. Brilliant. And the key elements to making this way more profound and working and almost having the brain knowing why to do it. It's really interesting. It can
Mm.
be primed for making something work better by knowing why it's good, by actually defragmenting, changing the attention away away from what is being struggling with to um, taking the meaning out of the experience and letting go of it. That's the key piece as to why it works. It's removing the meaning to the actual sensation of it so that it can actually just start putting strength and energy going to a particular area of the brain is going to make it stronger. So if it's overwhelm and stress, it makes it stronger. If it stays there, if it's the other, it's like lifting the other weight, and that's what the whole point of the mental fitness PQ repping is like. It's mental fitness in the gym. It's there to do in short amounts of time, removing the meaning and staying on one sense for that amount of time, practicing that until it gets stronger and stronger to be able to do that in more and more situations, just like any other habit. And so that's that piece. So we've got step one, which is if it's big, clear it out. Step two, in the moment, work out how to bring these practices in. If it and just an add on to that, the third one, if it's really, really more emotionally charged, then tapping or deliberate, what I call power stimming, is there to deliberately, rather than just a rescue, because stimming often is done for people that or wiggle the legs or something where it's to rescue. It's almost like it's an automatic rescue. If it's
Mm.
not being primed and it's just being done, then it kind of is just being done to regulate, and it kind of keeps the subconscious safe in that moment, but it doesn't necessarily help to improve or reverse the feelings of overwhelm. It can just stay there. So until it's calmed down, or maybe, but speeding that process up is to know that if it's done intentionally with mindfulness connected to it, then it actually makes it double powerful and allows safety and level-headedness to come back way more efficiently, effectively, and faster.
Brilliant. Yes, amazing. Nice, clear steps. And like you were saying with step two as well about recognizing, recognizing if you can't make a change right now in the moment, setting that intention. And this is something we did with goal setting or something recently, setting that intention for when you can do it, to let go of it in between. So if it means writing it down, like you say, that's important to not forget things, but not mentally carrying that weight of it. So now it's amazing. And when you're, just to clarify for people, when you're talking about PQ reps, no, not everybody might not know what that is. So when we talk emotional quotient or intelligence quotient, that's positive quotient, you call it, in there, which is essentially mindfulness through gentle touch and tapping. So Rory uses mindfulness through what he calls PQ reps, and they are really powerful. So maybe we can do one of those in a minute. I'm thinking that also it might be nice if I can just read a little bit out of the book as well today as we're doing this, so that they can experience a moment of mindfulness in this moment now. And I've randomly opened it up page here with a flower, which is a gorgeous flower, close up, and it's called Know Your Onions, because that is an onion flower. And I even learned that it was nice to be mindful when working down the vegetable plot in the garden. And that was one of my onions. So these are all my own photographs as well.
So just to bring in the priming of this, I encourage anyone listening to listen to the sound of Kay's voice, the texture, the tone, or because again, there's creating meaning, which is useful if it's taking us away from something that we're not wanting to think about. But there's also the sense of just the tone, the texture, to be mindful of it without actually allowing meaning to come in if necessary.
Oh, thank you, Rory. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I can't show the whole picture because it's towards the back of the book, but I'll show a bit while I'm reading. Is that clear enough? There we go. Right. So it says, know your onions. Sometimes the vegetable plot can bring displays as amazing as the flower bed. And with this onion having a majestic bloom of flowers in both height and form. You can barely cup your hands beneath this enormous pom-pom with countless tiny flowers. Now, if somebody likes counting or has a child who's autistic and likes counting, there is a potential challenge there, but that's not essential. Each bud is made of beautiful triangles with an incredible range of shades from white to pink, edged and centered with green for a fairy-like appearance. Imagine standing up straight, looking at the ground of the vegetable bed, and raise your gaze up slowly over the long green stalk till you meet this globe of flowers at eye level, and then hold your gaze there. Okay, I will stop there, but it just goes to show how in that moment, in probably about 20 seconds to a minute, we were able to completely let go of everything else mentally and just focus on what's in front of us. And if it's not actually in the flower bed, but it's in the photograph in the book, it's bringing that the mindset into a place of positivity and calm through the act of mindfulness. Now, we've talked in the past, I can't remember which episode today. My head is a little foggier than usual. I normally know them all. But we've talked about how, oh, I know what it was, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. There was an episode on thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and how when we think something, we have feelings about it. And that's all linked with our belief system. But everything we think, feel, and believe instantly affects our body's chemistry with cortisol, adrenaline, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. All of these chemicals react momentarily in the body. And so when we're talking about stress building up, and it builds up harmful chemicals in the body, or over time it can become harmful to the body with too much stress, being able to use mindfulness is balancing that out with the kinder chemistry in the body, the hormones that heal rather than harm. And so I know Rory will probably word this very differently than me, but it is about giving your body a chance to shift out of that stressful state, even for a minute or so.
Love it. Thank you, Kay. Yeah, yeah, all I would add to bear that in mind is that what you shared there was lovely, and it's almost like there's a lots of multi-sensory aspects to it but it still takes us away from, and it takes us away from something that potentially is being upsetting for a moment or whatever it is. So it's very, very useful. And then obviously, yeah, going into, I could have just shut my eyes and listened to your to your voice, or I could just look at the shades of the colors without trying to think of them as flowers and just look at the texture without any meaning whatsoever. Or I could go into, yeah, into imagining all of that too. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to be mindful, when it's taking us out of the danger mode to back to neutral to level headed is this. And often so the only last piece I'll say is that there's often ways we can then take it further beyond level headed. So that's where we'd come in to like look at what is actually truly wanted to be done, and work into creating motivation for change in to stay level-headed, to actually grow, but to grow into the power, getting stronger at different powers that we have as humans for um for stuff that literally and actually stops ourselves from building up and or creating mental uh, weakness, let's say mental weakness, or or holistic um, health challenges. So yeah, awesome.
Yep, that is awesome. And so thank you, Rory. This has been a fantastic talk. And so for a quick roundup on that, and you think we've talked about um, staying level-headed by getting things out, whether it's vocalizing it or writing it down, getting it out of your system and objectifying it, or listening to it through vocalizing it. We've talked about scheduling, about pacing, so taking short breaks and pacing yourself, the scheduling being setting intentions for times and times out. We've talked about mental resilience. And again, where the pacing gives you an opportunity to build up strengths by doing things in small spurts, and remembering to not do everything all at once to a point of burnout, and putting things down to carry less weight and focus on what you're doing in the moment. So it's talked about being able to be focused. What else have we covered? The mindfulness. Is there anything else? So actually, these are quite a lot of strategies that we can use in combination for staying level-headed, and they
Mm.
all work.
Yeah,
So
they all.
how you use them has got to be intuition and practice. And that's what personal development and growth is about, is using your strategies to practice and then use your own intuition for how they work for you. But we know they work.
Yeah, brilliant. And they all work individually as strengths, and that's the key point as well. Is like noticing which ones of those may be our personalities are naturally stronger at doing, or not so strong at doing, or weak at doing, and where that those notices that those weaknesses um are the things that actually will help us in the long term by working on them now in small, short. So yeah, all those different elements, which ones get to be looked at and worked on, and moving forwards into uh just the only other thing was yeah, noticing the five different senses, and each one of them can be worked on separately. And then uh that there's obviously the what I'd say is midterm projects, the sort of projects that, or the things that we want in life that aren't just either dealing with now, or just thinking about the bigger picture, going straight to the end of like the end result of like, oh, if I do this, I'm healthy. If I'm doing this, I'm not healthy. So that it's having a way to focus on something in the shorter term that you know is really, really useful for personal, professional developments. And when you're clear on that, then there's a drive to do the actual work to stay level-headed to get there. So that's what I would finish off with really, is to bear that in mind, that we're here to talk through any of those things. And that's what we love to help people with, is get that longer term, the mid-term and the short term stuff sorted with efficiency and accuracy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rory. And if I can, I would like to just say as well that for Christmas Day this year, I just had an idea today. And no sooner I thought it, I'd put it into action, even with everything else going on. So if anybody does feel like by Christmas Day in the afternoon, you need a couple of hours time out and good company, or you're finding yourself alone for Christmas, and you feel like you need to work on your own self-love and some compassion, I have decided, and I don't know whether Rory's read this or not yet because I sent him the message. I have decided to run a 2-hour workshop on Christmas Day, 3 to 5 p.m. And it's running my hug workshop. So I've done this before several times. It's always been absolutely loved. Everybody who's been on it has really enjoyed it. And it's about how we can take the knowledge of the power of a hug and turn it into self-love and compassion. And I couldn't think of a day. I was trying to decide, do it day before Christmas, do it after Christmas. And I thought, why not do it on Christmas Day? Let's be different. And so 3 to 5 p.m., if anybody would like to come and join me on that, you're more than welcome. It is free. And if anybody's feeling generous, I will have a link. Instead of buy me a coffee, I've set it as buy me a mince pie. So that's going to be my 3 to 5 p.m. GMT workshop. And I'll put the link below the video. And you're welcome as
Amazing.
well, Rory.
Very cool. Oh, well, it was 3 years ago that I think I did a Christmas Day dance party.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I did one of the discos. So maybe.
You can stick another hour on or two. I'm doing it with a flexible end time. So if you want to put that on the end, you're more than welcome.
We shall see. Yeah,
Or we can have a break and do that a bit later. Don't just do two separate ones. But yeah, we'll have a chat about that and we will let you know.
amazing.
But yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you, Rory. It's been a great conversation again today. And please, with all of the usual workloads, plus family, plus additional life curveballs, plus all the holiday prep and planning and shopping and wrapping, stay level-headed and enjoy the season to come. We will see you all next week for another High Leverage Actions podcast. Thank you, Rory. Bye-bye, everybody.
Much love.